Thank you. Pleased to recognize once again joining us today the gentleman from California, Jeff Denham.
Thank you. I'm just here to lend my support. Rick, I'm proud of the efforts that you've been having here with our freshman class. This is a bold freshman class that continues to offer up new solutions. We're going to continue to show leadership. Harry Reid, you can run from us, but you're running out of room to run away from the American public.
As I've said before, we have 87 freshmen in our class, and so we may have 87 different opinions on various issues, but one I think that we can all agree on is the fact that we need to move forward with a responsible administration of our federal government, and I want to recognize the gentleman from Texas, Congressman Flores.
This is the reason I ran for Congress. My granddaughter was born on March 25th, first granddaughter. Very, very proud of her. When I was running for Congress, I was running to restore America's promise and prosperity and security for future generations. The Budget Committee just rolled out its latest budget. And what is it called? It's called The Path to Prosperity, Restoring America's Promise. And when we do that, we restore America's national security as well. Now you can contrast this budget that was just rolled out a few minutes, which reduces spending the next 10 years by $6.2 trillion, to this budget, which increases spending by trillions of dollars. Now, while we are talking about $60 billion as a small down payment to head back on a path toward prosperity, the Senate does nothing. Why can't the Senate's not even working on a budget that does this? Why is the Senate not acting? Why are they running from the American people? Mr. Reid, pass a bill, do your job. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, we have a broad coalition representing not only freshmen but senior members, and I want to recognize one from Georgia, Congressman Broun.
Thank you, Rick. Senator Reid is acting like a morbidly obese patient who has hypertension, diabetes, heart failure, and high cholesterol, and refused to even eliminate 1 teaspoon of mayonnaise on his triple bacon cheeseburger. When Mr. Reid tries to justify spending taxpayers' dollars on a cowboy poetry festival in his home state, it's absolutely inane. We've got to cut the spending that the federal government's been doing under this president and under the leadership of Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. We're in an economic emergency as a nation. It's absolutely critical that we make major cuts, that we preserve the things that the federal government's supposed to be doing, to preserve and protect Social Security for those that are dependent upon it. It's critical that we create jobs. The Democrats have been spending too much, they've been taxing too much, they've been borrowing too much, and it's killing jobs in America. We need to defund Obamacare. We need to put this country back on a course that is going to create jobs here in America. Harry Reid has been missing in action. He's AWOL. He needs to come to the table. He needs to show some leadership. He needs to present a bill that we can pass, keep this government funded, and keep this government going. But I believe very firmly that Harry Reid and Barack Obama have planned to shut down this government for political purposes. It's a diabolical plan that they are doing solely for the purpose of trying to re-elect Barack Obama, get Nancy Pelosi back on the Speaker's chair, and to give Harry Reid a bigger majority in the Senate so they can continue their socialist takeover of our economy and of our government. It's got to stop. Mr. Reid needs to come to the table. He needs to show some leadership. I applaud what Rick Crawford and the freshmen are doing here. I'm here to support them, and I'll continue to do everything we can to stop this outrageous spending that the federal government's been doing.
Thank you. As I said before, we were sent here not to destroy government. We were sent here to instill a responsible government, to reform government and the way government operates, and be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I want to recognize my friend from Arkansas, Tim Griffin.
Thank you so much for putting this on, Rick. You know, when I look at what we've done here and what has come out of the Senate, I have concluded that the Senate has already effectively shut down. And they're just waiting for the rest of the country to follow along. Yeah. That's what they consider leadership. There's a narrative here. What did they do last year on the issue of the debt and spending? No plan. What have they done with regard to funding the government this year? No plan. We've got this huge problem of the debt that the President's own debt commission said, hey, we've got an emergency. We've got a catastrophe coming. Get the budget from the President, no plan. So I have concluded that the Senate has already shut down. I haven't been over there to see if they're there. But I wish that they would do what they're supposed to do and fund the government. Because a lot of folks, particularly in the military, are going to pay the price if they don't simply work with us to fund the government. Thank you.
I can't overstate the calamity that will likely ensue if we do not fund the military. And those soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that are downrange, serving our country in hostile theaters of action, 2 wars and 1 kinetic military action, if you will. And they are actively engaged. And we cannot and should not and will not disrupt their families, their income, the sacrifices that they are making day to day to ensure that we can come here and talk to you today, deserve at our very least to be paid. And I want to recognize my colleague, the gentleman from Michigan, Congressman Huizenga.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. I'd like to see some kinetic energy over in the Senate, frankly. That would be helpful. I'm Bill Huizenga, 2nd District of Michigan, but I feel like Bill Murray trapped in Groundhog Day. Here we are again. Same place, same location, same actions, unfortunately. And I think, as my friend Tim was pointing out, there's been no activity. You know, where were we a year ago in April? Nothing happening. Where were we in May of last year? Nothing happening. Where were we in June and July? All the way through the end of the fiscal year. And then now we're into our 7th CR as we're trying to, as the Senate's sort of stumbling its way through this along with the administration. It's time for some action, and we're reaching that point of no return here, as we have just precious few days left to get this done before we see what I think virtually all of us don't want to have happen, which is that shutdown. But again, we've heard from Senator Schumer what the game plan is. Call us extreme, call us juvenile, call us all these other names, and do nothing. Inactivity brings an action that they want, which is shutdown. We are trying to be proactive. We have now passed 2 continuing resolutions. We've tried to make this better for the American people. We tried to bring some predictability. I'm a small business guy. I have a ready-mix gravel company back in Michigan. I used to be in real estate and developing. One of the things that drives a business guy absolutely nuts, and I know there's a number of us up here, is lack of predictability. Whether it's in the tax code, whether it's in the regulatory code, all those types of things. Well, guess what? We are lending unpredictability to this situation with not just our military men and women, but all those other employees, all those other programs that are out there. Talk to anybody who's running a community action agency. Talk to anybody who's trying to run, as we have in Michigan, the Michigan Works program. They don't know what to tell people when they're coming up saying, hey, well, we think you have a job, we think you ought to show up, we think we're going to be able to give you training, but we're just not sure. Well, let's give the American people that predictability, and we can do that by some action, some kinetic activity out of the Senate. Let's get that going. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming out again today on day 45, and again, we're just calling on Senator Reid. If you can't lead, please step aside and let someone lead that is willing to.